So we've all been following Signalgate for the past week, a shocking national security fumble where the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic was added to an encrypted group chat with top government officials like Vice President Vance, Defense Secretary Hegseth, and Secretary of State Rubio, where they're all discussing the operational details of an imminent military attack.
And we've all heard the backlash from Democrats and even Republicans saying that this leak put our servicemen at risk. And even though it's being called the dumbest leak in history, that really shouldn't take away from how dangerous it was. But instead, today we want to focus on who's to blame for this leak and how encrypted apps work.
So for some context, there are generally three categories of classified government information. There's confidential, secret, and top secret. And historically, military plans have always been classified as top secret since like the Reagan administration. And experts say encrypted apps shouldn't be used for sharing any type of classified material.
And even some types of unclassified. So apparently a month before the Signal group chat was even created, the National Security Agency sent out a warning about vulnerabilities in Signal. The Pentagon said, please note, third-party messaging apps like Signal are not approved to process or store non-public, unclassified information.
Which is exactly what was done in this situation, even though the Trump administration vehemently denies that any classified information was shared in this group chat. I'm not sure I buy that messages talking about the exact planned timings of military strikes isn't super top secret.
Right, like for example, Hegseth insists he didn't give any like specific locations in his messages, but he did detail when the F-18 fighter jets were going to launch. And military experts say for a mission like this, there's only one place those fighter jets could have taken off from, and that's the USS Harry Truman.
Yeah, that's not a national security risk at all. That's very normal. And now there's a lot of back and forth between Democrats who are calling for an investigation into this and Republicans who are saying that this isn't that big of a deal because no war plans were shared. There was even a House Intelligence Committee hearing last week discussing these semantics. But what really struck us the most about how like dumb this entire situation was is that there was no like scam involved. It was 100% preventable.
Right, like this leak didn't involve hacking or phishing or any like high-tech breach from an adversary, which we'll get into later. In this one, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz simply added the wrong guy to the group chat. So we spoke to Tanner Haas, founder of the encrypted app Freedom Chat, to learn more about how they work and what security measures Signal could implement to have prevented this. In your opinion, do you think encrypted apps are safe for government officials to share information, or you would say they're not? You can't trust them?
The right ones. So like Signal, for example, what just happened. So Signal is one of the better ones. They have end-to-end encryption. They do have very good, high-quality encryption. They tend to not store messages on the server. They claim they're nonprofit and don't have commercial use of user data, but as a nonprofit, you're usually beholden to your largest donor. Their largest donor was the co-founder of WhatsApp. It's like a merry-go-round. But what happened with the reporter, this should have been prevented. So the first thing is like Signal allows multiple phone numbers to log in to multiple devices. So one phone number for multiple devices. So I can log in on my iPhone, my Android, my iPad, et cetera, et cetera. The more devices you have, the greater probability that fraud, phishing, abuse, something's going to occur. So that's number one. And they've been the victim of that. WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal. Freedom Chat allows one device, one phone number. The other thing is, looks like the reporter took a screenshot of the chat. We prevent screenshots and screen recordings. Signal does not. So if they prevented screenshots or screen recordings, he wouldn't have been able to screenshot. He was added with his username, not even his username, his initials. That's just idiotic. From what I heard is people were added. He had two people with the same initials. You got a 50-50 shot. You need to verify somebody's phone number, not just add them with MK or WW or TH. I'm like, that's just ridiculous. So that's number three. And this is Signal's fault. These are things that could have been implemented. And that's why if it was on Freedom Chat, never would have occurred. And we're trying to get closer to the Trump administration to, hey, you should be using us. Fourth is in a top secret group chat, let's make an approval flow. So if us three are in a group chat and I want to add somebody and it's deemed a top secret chat, you too should have to approve that individual being added before he or she can actually be added.
The FBI put out like a warning about how US citizens should like stay off of iMessage and SMS texting and get encrypted apps. But we were kind of wondering what the benefit of like an encrypted app for a regular citizen like us who are not government officials are. Like, what would you say the benefit is?
Have you ever sent a private message, image, video, something that if it got out there, would you be embarrassed?
Yeah.
It's not just
Safe to
that.
say.
It's people send credit cards, social security numbers. I mean, just everything. Usually people aren't that concerned until it happens to you, and then it's too late. So Freedom Chat, for example, like it's not just end-to-end encryption. iMessage, I don't trust iMessage. I don't trust Google. I don't trust WhatsApp because it's Facebook. But Freedom Chat, we prevent screenshots first off. So it's not just end-to-end encryption. Like a lot of these apps say end-to-end encryption. They take every piece of metadata. So when you store everything on a server, it's like this big cloud over your head. If we're all texting in a group chat, they're going to take my location. They'll take your location. They'll take our political affiliation, financial information, and then they feed that to Meta. So are we really speaking privately? I'd say no, we're not.
Can you explain to us how do encrypted apps work? What makes them different from just like texting on your phone?
So end-to-end encryption means nobody other than the intended recipient can decrypt a message versus if you send an SMS text, usually they're not end-to-end encrypted. So not only can the service provider see what you're saying, but also that opens the door for government officials, hackers, bigger companies. But end-to-end encryption means that you get a private key, basically, upon signing up. Only that specific private key can decrypt the message that's intended for you. So that's the way it works on Freedom Chat. Some of these other messaging apps like Telegram don't have end-to-end encryption by default, which means that they can see the messages that you send since they are the service provider. WhatsApp says they have end-to-end encryption, but then you can report somebody and see the 5 latest messages. So I guess it's end-to-end encryption when they want it to be. It's pretty surprising, kind of terrifying how many messages are not end-to-end encrypted. But even if they are end-to-end encrypted, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're still protected.
So even though Signal isn't one of the biggest encrypted apps, it only has 40 to 70 million users compared to WhatsApp and Messenger, which have billions. It has a sterling reputation for privacy, and it's commonly used by government officials.
But again, experts agree that Signal should not be used by government officials. Like, for example, it's not authorized for city-owned phones in Denver. There have been countless Signal leaks all across the country. And of course, one of the biggest threats is hacking, specifically by like professional Russian hacking groups that have these elaborate phishing scams and somehow just bypass all of the end-to-end encryption.
Yeah, the Google Threat Intelligence Group warned last month of increasing efforts from several Russian state-aligned threat actors to compromise Signal accounts, mainly targeting Ukrainian intelligence, but Google anticipates Russia will broaden these tactics.
Yeah, Ukraine's top cyber defense agency sent a warning last week about these targeted phishing attacks, where these Signal accounts sent messages about like fake meeting reports or weird links to Ukraine's armed forces.
That's so terrifying. They even said some of the messages appeared like they were sent from an existing contact. Like it would show up like it came from your friend or something, which obviously makes it way more likely you're going to click on it.
And in response to all of this, Signal has said that its app has never been compromised by hackers before, but is the target of phishing attacks, which reminds me of when we were at 60 Minutes and we'd have to take those like phishing courses every 2 months and they were so annoying.
Oh my gosh, they were so long and boring and like basic. And yes, phishing attacks can happen anywhere, like text, messaging app, email, but it does seem like Russia is targeting Signal specifically.
Another big reason Signal shouldn't be government approved is because users can make their messages disappear after a certain period of time. So Atlantic editor-in-chief Goldberg said that even happened with the messages in the chain that he was added to. And that's obviously problematic because it violates federal laws against record keeping.
Governments have actually tried to work with encrypted apps to create a backdoor to prevent these messages from being wiped, but Signal has fought against it. They even threatened to pull their app from the UK completely when it was challenged by lawmakers there.
Yeah, like encrypted apps are complicated. Like, I don't know how I really feel about them. Like, it makes sense that lawmakers would want to work with apps like Signal because it would help them like target criminal activity. But then obviously if Signal makes exceptions, then their entire privacy model falls apart.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. When we asked Tanner about it, he said like, why compromise the privacy of the masses for just a few bad actors? So the last point against Signal, and this applies to all third-party apps, is geolocation concerns. So basically, since these apps permanently live on officials' phones as they travel outside safe environments, it really ups the chances of security vulnerability.
So bringing it back to this Atlantic breach, we know multiple members of the group chat were abroad when they were discussing these war plans over Signal. Like Witkoff was in Russia, Rubio and Waltz were in Saudi Arabia, Gabbard was somewhere in the Asia Pacific region. So even just that opened these high-level conversations up to so many security risks.
Right, because the only government-approved way to discuss top-secret information like they were is through SCIFs, sensitive compartmented information facilities, which are basically these super secret rooms where officials can access computer servers that are designed specifically to discuss war plans and other secrets.
You can't bring personal electronic devices into these rooms, and according to Washington Post reporting, there are thousands of SCIFs like all around the world. So they're hidden in federal buildings, military installations, and embassies, and these rooms can range from the size of like phone booths to entire floors of buildings.
And all that security does make them cumbersome and annoying, which is why Trump's team tried to bypass it, but then it opens you up to breaches like the one that happened.
And you'd think that this embarrassing situation would stop literally everyone from the Trump administration from ever using Signal again. But according to recent reporting, Waltz, of all people, is using Signal again to discuss military operations and a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine.
Literally, what is he thinking? Like, dude, you caused this whole mess to begin with. Like, get off Signal. Apparently, Vance privately suggested to Trump that Waltz be fired. So let's see how long he sticks around.